Yo, what's going on, guys? My name is Liam Asher. Welcome back to another Overwatch League news video. And today we got the usual in the first couple of days of the offseason. More releases to talk about, more changes, some retirements too, some big retirements, especially near the end, and some leaks here and there. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. We're going to talk about the Boston Uprising for a quick second. And if you guys did not see, 5 players are gone from the Boston Uprising. We got Stan 1, we got Colourhex, Myunbong, I'm 37, and Fusions Retire, all from Boston Uprising. And it's crazy to see some of these players go. Fusions has been with the Boston Uprising since Season 2. You know, after the great run they had in Season 1. Fusions came in Season 2, kind of unknown, only known for his Rhino. That's something we knew him for. And Fusions is now retired. He's gone now, but I will say his play has gone down a lot through the past years. You know, Season 2 was his greatest year, but even in that year, he wasn't the greatest main tank. But he was still known. He was one of the more popular players for how he was behind the scenes, not in-game, more of a team guy, more of a team player, and a person in general. So it's sad to see someone like Fusions go, but when it comes to skill in game, Fusions definitely was not up to par compared to how the league has gone. You know, it levels up every year, and he had a hard time competing against the other main tanks that were in the league. Now, I think another big one out of these releases here from the Boston Uprising is Myunbong. We all know Myunbong has been kind of solid the past years. Not one of the super top tier ones like, you know, is a Yaki or even Fielder, but Myunbong has been kind of the solid flex port for Boston, even out of all flex ports for, you know, his time in the league, you know, the year or two, you know, he's been solid. And I think him being on Boston held him back a little bit, but I think if he's on another team that needs a flex port, which will probably show up here and there throughout more of the offseason, that a team will need a flex port, Myunbong, I think, could show way more than he did on the Boston Uprising, and especially under the right coaching, I think Myunbong can still become, as we said when he first got signed, one of the best, if not the best, potential flex port coming in under the right team. Like, imagine if he was under Shock, under Fuel, under Shanghai Dragons. You know, they're never going to sign him, but like, imagine if he was under that team, and imagine the potential we could see if Myunbong, maybe he'll do it, you know, sometime this year. Maybe Florida Mayhem will still have a mixed roster, and I'm bringing up Florida Mayhem because we're going to talk about a leak from Haloofthoughts after this Boston Uprising topic that who knows what Florida Mayhem is going to really look like right now. So Myunbong, I think, is going to get signed pretty fast. I'd love to see what team it's on first, and it could be a team doing a full rebuild. I mean, we're already seeing many teams want to do a full rebuild right now. We're going to talk about London later. We already know Vancouver Titans is doing a rebuild. We're seeing many teams release so many players right now for the next season of the Overwatch League, and I'd love to see where Myunbong goes. Colourhex onto him. I mean, same thing like Fusions. As the years has gone on, he's had a hard time staying up to the level of the Overwatch League, and he occasionally had times here and there where he pops off on like Widow or Tracer, or just his flexibility showed that it's somewhat solid, but he just couldn't stand up to players like Yaki, Sparkle, Doha. He just couldn't stand up to those players anymore, so now he is now released. We don't know what his future is going to be. I think he is LFT. And you have Stan 1, which I think was honestly not that bad of a piece in the Boston Uprising. A lot of people complained about Stan 1 in the early days, but I think Stan 1 was actually kind of solid throughout the entire time this year for the Boston Uprising. Sucks to see him go, but there's definitely upgrades over Stan 1. I think they're looking for that, or they're going on the budget year. So who knows what's going on with Stan 1. I think Stan 1 has potential to be a really good main tank, but as it stands right now, I think Stan 1's probably good for a sub main tank or somewhat of a in and out main tank because, hey, Overwatch 2, only one tank, so who knows if Stan 1 is going to get that position, because there's a lot of teams that are stacked on main tanks right now. But like I said, it's offseason. Some of those tanks could get released and Stan 1 gets signed. I mean, Stan 1 could be great on a team doing a rebuild right now, like the Vancouver Titans upgrade over main tank, and maybe the Philadelphia Fusion. They need a main tank right now too. So Stan 1 has a lot of options right now just for the couple of days of the offseason has started. Now we have I'm 37. He was also solid throughout the entire year for the Boston Uprising. I think there was a lot of inconsistencies, though, with I'm 37, with his hit scan play. But this definitely was a good year for I'm 37. I'd love to see what he can do later in the future. I think he will be in the Overwatch League again next season. Also, one of those things depends on what team he's going to be on. Like I said already, there's a lot of teams already doing rebuilds, so I'm 37 can get on one of those teams instantly that need a hit scan. I mean, hey, Dallas needs a hit scan. Los Angeles Gladiators needs a hit scan. We'll talk about that later. So I'm 37 does have options. Will they sign I'm 37? I'm gonna lean towards no on Dallas Gladiators, maybe. Now it's like a little tiny thing. Not gonna go too much into it, but Halo has somewhat pulled back on his previous leak about Florida Mayhem. That he tweets this out: Florida may not get all of American Tornado, which is kind of expected, you know, if you looked at the roster previously. So I think they'll still end up having some pieces from American Tornado, but they would still need to look around for free agents out there, maybe like I'm 37, just players like that. They won't have all of American Tornado. They'll definitely have some great pieces from that team, but I'd love to see what they would do, what Florida will do with American Tornado or other players out there, maybe some open tryouts perhaps. So I'm excited to see what they do. This is definitely going to be an interesting roster for next season, so I'm interested to see how this plays out. They still have Yaki, but Haloofthoughts has leaked that Yaki is looking to get traded, so it's all up in the air right now for the Florida Mayhem. Now onto a big one that happened today while making this video is London Spitfire, which is something they needed to do, is they basically released everyone except for a few players. So you see on your screen, Fisher's gone, Hybrid, Reaper, Molfig, Blase, Hottie, Colourhex, all gone. But they are going to keep Sparker, Shax, and Commander X and Coach Spilo. They're going to keep those, but when it comes to these players, all gone. And you know what? I think these are reasonable. These are reasonable releases. Makes sense. Good to keep Shax. He was still showing somewhat solid performances all year for London. They weren't the greatest performances at all. Please don't think I thought they were top tier. They're definitely not top tier plays with Shax. He kind of did his own things a lot. Kind of pulled the effect back in season 1 where he kept doing his own thing. He tried to carry but not help the team as much. But Shax, he went up and down throughout the place out there the entire year. Sparker, I mean, we saw the potential he had. He's still good. I think it's good to keep him. And please forgive me if I'm saying this wrong. Spilo or Spilo, as soon as he came in, London did look a little bit better. So good to keep him in. But these releases make so much sense. And I'm being honest, I don't even see some of these players coming in the next season because they did not look that good at all. They may go in contenders. I think Hottie and Molfig could go in contenders. Ripa, I mean, it's up in the air. Blase, definitely not. If anything, he's going to be a sub on a team in Overwatch League. Maybe in contenders. Hybrid, hard to see him do anything. Colourhex, I think Colourhex may end up retiring. I have a feeling it's going to be the case. So these releases make sense. They're definitely doing another rebuild here for London Spitfire. I'm interested to see what they're going to do this year. So are they going to have a mixed roster? Is it going to stay European again? I'm interested to see how London Spitfire turns out next year because they have a lot of pieces they could sign, but are they going to do it? Who knows? Now onto a little small thing with the Washington Justice. All they have signed is Tydolla will be a assistant coach. Nothing too much to talk about here. He's just been signed to the Justice as an assistant coach. Now to the Philadelphia Fusion. Some sad news here. Shockwave and Tobi have been released, but Tobi is retiring as a player and going into coaching. Sad to see it. Tobi's been one of the best main sports since season 1. He's been one of the most consistent ones, very solid all around. Every team tries to replace him. Ends up not being the case. Tobi played a handful amount of times this year for the Philadelphia Fusion and looked good as well. Shockwave, this was expected for him not to play that much. I mean, he did play time to time for the Fusion, but what are you going to do when you have the DPS players that Fusion has? It's just going to be hard for Shockwave to actually play there. And I think Shockwave will find another team in the Overwatch League. He's always proven himself every time he has played, back in Vancouver, still on Philadelphia Fusion. I think Shockwave still is going to be in the Overwatch League next year. Depends on what team it is. I'd love for it to be London Spitfire. I wanted him to be on that team last season, 2021. I wanted him to be on the London Spitfire. Did not end up being the case. So hopefully this time around, he could be on London Spitfire. Yes, it's 2 hit scan players, but he's also very flexible. So I think Shockwave could work on the London Spitfire. Tobi is going into coaching. I think that's going to be a good role for him. He doesn't want to play anymore. He wants to try out coaching for Overwatch 2. I think it's going to be a good run for him, honestly. As assistant coach, probably to start off with and then go into head coaching. I'm excited to see what Tobi does in the future. Sucks to see, such a big player like Tobi retire as well as a main support. And this isn't the only big retirement, and we're going to talk about it later. Once again, we're going to talk about some more coaching things as well for the Dallas Fuel. Then welcoming back Aid and Rush. Needed to happen. Rush got Coach of the Year for a reason. Helped this team out by a lot, and I still think Rush has potential to win the Overwatch League for the Fuel. Also depends on who he signs this offseason for Hitscan and another support. So I'm excited to see what he does. Nothing too much to talk about here. I'm not behind the scenes. I have no idea what they do, but we saw the results. Rush did great for the Dallas Fuel, and so did Aid. So that's all I got to talk about. Now onto the NYXL, and they have basically done what every other team has done, and it has released every player except Flora, which was leaked a couple of days ago by Haloofthoughts, and also Jonak is looking to be a free agent and most likely will not be on NYXL anymore after the previous leak from Haloofthoughts as well. But NYXL has released Guangboon, Kalios, Feather, Yakpong, Bianca Friday, and Bianca and Friday end up retiring. Nothing too surprising here. I think Guangboon now has some more options to play hitscan on other teams like Dallas Fuel, Florida Mayhem. I mean, so many teams need hit scans now, and unfortunately we couldn't see that potential from Guangboon on NYXL because Flora really came out of nowhere. No one really knew who Flora was, and he came in being a really solid hit scan for the NY Excel, so we couldn't see Gwangbong. But I do think when Gwangbong did come in to play over Flora, he didn't look that bad. It's just, you know, they're so used to Flora now. I can't say that much about Kalios. I saw him time to time. Yakpong, he was all right this year, up and down. Same thing with Feather. Bianca still showed solid performances all year. Friday, he was also all right. I mean, I don't see a lot of these players coming back next season. I think Gwangbong has the potential to come back. Maybe. That's a huge maybe. But obviously, Bianca and Friday are retirement, so they can't come back, unfortunately. As much as I want to see Bianca come back, he can't come back. So I think Feather, Kalios, and Yakpong are going to go right back to contenders, which sucks to see because, hey, Yakpong and Kalios had a great run at contenders. And now they're going back to it, most likely. Who knows, maybe Kalios will get signed to another Overwatch League team, and the same thing goes with Yakpong, but I highly doubt it. Now onto the final thing. It's really sad to see, but it finally happened. He pulled the trigger on it. Birdring has retired. Birdring is no longer playing the game professionally of Overwatch. Sucks to see. This is a sad one, you know, for many people, especially the people who watch professional Overwatch League since day one. You know, we have Apex, London Spitfire, the stories we've had with him on London Spitfire, him going to the Gladiators, seeing something we never thought we would have seen, Birdring on a different team other than London, and he hit the retirement button. You know, back in season 1, he was a fantastic hit scan player. He had wrist issues. Then we saw Red come in, and then season 2 came in, very inconsistent at the time. We were worried that Birdring was no longer good anymore. Then that's when rumors came in that he was going to retire. Los Angeles Gladiators comes in and signs him. And look at Birdring go. Look at Birdring go. He is looking crazy good on the Gladiators. Very consistent. That top tier Birdring we loved back in early season 1 days on the London Spitfire, and he brought it to the Gladiators. And very consistent. You know, it was great. It was great to see Birdring play like that. And he went off with a bang, I would say. You know, he got pretty high standings, pretty high results on the Gladiators. So I think it's a perfect time to retire. Maybe he'll come back for Overwatch 2 if he really enjoys it, but I highly doubt it. So that is it with all of the Overwatch League news that has happened in the past 2 days. And it's getting crazy. You know, it's like one day nothing happens, and the next day a lot happens. Too much probably happens, actually. So that's going to be it for me. If you guys want to stay more in tune with Overwatch League news and Overwatch League stuff in general, don't forget to subscribe down below. Also, don't forget to join my Discord down below as well. Don't forget to follow my Twitter and my Twitch. And don't forget to hit that bell. And don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below. And I'll see you guys on the next one.